Another Zappacosta cross, this time from Richard Keogh, Richard Keogh we should say, made it 2-1 to Chelsea with just 21 minutes played. Martin Waghorn then, another 6 minutes later, equalised to make it 2-2. And 4 minutes before half-time, Cesc Fabregas with, dare I say, a typical Frank Lampard goal, ghosting in and scoring from the 12-yard spot or thereabouts, making it Chelsea 3, Derby 2. Spurs are 2-0 up away to West Ham. Heung-min Son's gotten both of those tonight, and Middlesbrough are currently leading Crystal Palace by a goal to nil. A full programme of matches as well in the Scottish Premiership tonight. Leaders Hearts still scoreless with their Edinburgh rivals Hibs at Tynecastle. All the other games have produced goals, and in some cases plenty of them. Aberdeen are 3-0 up at home to Hamilton. Graham Shinney, James Wilson and Michael Devlin scoring for the Dons tonight. Celtic 5-0 up away to the bottom side Dundee. Tom Rogic, a Scott Sinclair penalty, James Forrest, Odson Edward and Ryan Christie scoring for Brendan Rodgers' side tonight. St Johnstone, they're 1-0 up thanks to Matthew Kennedy away to Livingston. Rangers 1-1 with Kilmarnock at the moment at Ibrox. Greg Stewart, who got last minute clearance to play in this game, cancelling out Alfredo Morelos' opener for Rangers there tonight. And Motherwell 2-0 up away to St Mirren. Real Madrid, as we mentioned, in action under Santi Solari for the first time in the Copa del Rey tonight. Two familiar names and two not so familiar names scoring for Real in a 4-0 victory in their first leg victory away to Melilla. Karim Benzema and Marco Asensio in the first half for Real. Alvaro Odriozola and Cristo Gonzalez with the goals in the second half. A 4-0 victory for them, as I say. 1-1 between Milan and Genoa in Serie A tonight, while in tennis one line there being that Novak Djokovic is the new men's number one. Rafa Nadal's withdrawal from the Paris Masters today due to an abdominal injury opens the way for Djokovic to take the summit in the ATP rankings. Just 4 months ago, Djokovic had been ranked 22 in the world, Joe.
Cheers, Rich.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app for exclusive price enhancements on the biggest games around. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
So in the Football Show this evening, Keith Andrews will join us to talk about bad footballer diets, frankly. We'll have Tim Vickery talking to us about the Copa Libertadores, where it seems Argentinian and Brazilian sides are reclaiming some lost ground. And we have Dan McDonnell in studio. Hello.
Hi, Joe.
So Matt Doherty is the reason. I spoke to Keith Andrews earlier on. Matt Doherty, first question his manager, Espirito Santo, asked him was, what's your body fat percentage? And Matt Doherty thought, that's not a good question to be asked. And with good reason. His diet consisted largely of pasta, microwavable meals, sweets and fizzy drinks. So he's down to very lean and healthy, 86.5 kgs. At his heaviest, he reckons he was up to 92.
Wow, that's surprising. Like 92 is pretty...
14 stone.
Yeah, plus, he's not like an unbelievably tall player, you know, so you're explaining that with his frame, you know.
Yeah, so he's had to cut it all out. And this was as recently as June 2017. It's extraordinary stuff.
Well, the thing about Matt, like, and you speak to people who worked with him along the way, that, and even people who really rate him as a player, but they wouldn't have necessarily regarded him as like this amazing pro. He could sort of annoy people at times, you know, just with his manner at times, and I think his punctuality at one of his clubs was an issue. But I mean, that's irrelevant. He's got his act together big time now, and we're seeing the rewards.
So let's start with the big one, Dan. 1860 Munich against Sonnenhof.
Well, this is my weekend football. Well, actually, I went to Bowes-Dundalk on Friday. There was a couple of German lads there, because there's always tourists going to games at Dalymount Park, and a lot of them are Germans because, you know, the Germans just have a fantastic attitude to attending football. They love going to football. So I was over in Munich for a stag at the weekend.
I didn't realise, that there were German contingents going to Dalymount, or that tourists are always going to Dalymount.
Oh, big time, yeah, big time.
Because Dalymount's a famous stadium?
Well, Dalymount's a famous stadium. It's just because people are in Dublin on a Friday night and they're lads on a trip and they think, let's go to a game.
It's weird Dubliners don't have that attitude.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, that's it. I find that annoying as well. Like, I mean... Anyway,
let's not turn this into a League of Ireland bitching session.
Well, I mean, ironically, it's you that's leading it.
Which is what you want to do every time you're in here.
It's you leading it.
No, Dan, no.
Have you been to a game in Dalymount Park ever? There's 2 more years of the old Dalymount. Have you been to a game?
That's a great point.
Have you been to the old Dalymount Park, as it will be known one day? The spiritual home of Irish football. Not just League of Ireland, the spiritual home of Irish football.
It's dreadfully annoying of me to say I've played there but haven't been there.
Well, you have been there if you've played there.
Okay, well, I haven't watched a game there. I played.
Yeah, you've played there.
Yeah.
Was it like a good game, or was it
decent game? It was kind of underage level. Played to a reasonable level at times.
We don't have to get into it.
We don't have to get into it.
I know you did. I think you should go. You should actually get a Friday night in. But anyway, because it is a great old ground, and the German lads in front of me were taking pictures the whole time, just taking the picture of the history.
Get one of the Bob Marley mural.
I'm not sure that would have been. I'm not sure if what they got or what attracted them, but it does actually happen big time. But anyway,
okay. Sorry.
So I was over on a stag at the weekend
in
Munich, and you think, okay, are Bayern playing? They're not.
Yeah.
They were, but they're playing away from home, and you're thinking, right, 1860 Munich. They are the only other sort of senior team as such in Munich, which is sort of mad when you think how many clubs might be in London and sort of other major cities. So 1860 Munich, where are they playing? They're playing at home, Sunday 12 o'clock or whatever, 1 o'clock. Perfect. Now they're in the German, like people would be familiar with the name 1860 Munich. You know, like there's one of these names. I think they won the German league maybe back in the 60s, and you know they've been a top tier club.
Dan, if you told me they were still in the Bundesliga, I would have.
You would have nodded and agreed.
All day long.
I completely.
Yeah.
I knew they weren't in the Bundesliga. I knew they'd fallen on hard times, but I didn't know how far they'd fallen. Actually,
third division.
I would have thought they would have been second division, to be honest.
Okay.
But actually, they were in the fourth division last year.
Okay.
They were in the Allianz Arena. They were previously playing in the Allianz Arena, but actually years ago their stake in it was bought out because they had financial issues. And they've always had, it seems, this crisis has sort of perpetually hung in the air over the last sort of 2 decades, basically. And Ian Ayre, who was actually at Liverpool, one of the figures at Liverpool, he temporarily went there a couple of years ago when they got relegated from the second division, but dropped to the fourth due to some, again, financial issues or irregularities. So you're thinking, so what's this going to be like? You know, it's the German third division.
Yeah.
So they're back in this ground called the Grunwalder Stadium, which was the home of Bayern Munich until 1972. And thankfully, when this crew went to the Allianz Arena, they didn't demolish it. You know, the stadium was kept for use. I'm not sure what use it was actually kept for, but it was kept for some reason or other.
So presumably Bayern played there until the 72 Olympics.
They did. They moved to the Olympic Stadium. Yeah, it was actually George Hamilton. I put up a tweet. I was at the game, and George Hamilton sort of replied and made that point. Like, and he sort of knows his history of that neck of the woods very well. So yeah, Bayern moved to the Olympic Stadium, and then they subsequently went to the Allianz in 1860. Were there, but they've basically gone back to their like spiritual home, I guess. Or a spiritual home, more to the point, for like maybe football in Munich rather than necessarily for 1860, which is actually very close to the city centre, like a 10-minute taxi, whereas Allianz is a bit more of a trek, you know. So I think how many people are going to be there, and yeah, it was like basically a sellout, 15,000 crowd.
Wow.
Real old school stadium, you know. There was stands on 2 sides, standing terraces behind each goal. And a really sort of lively, friendly, decent atmosphere. Facilities were brilliant, you know. It's an old school stadium. Like it's what brilliant might be for someone who doesn't like new stadiums, you know, in the sense that a lot of standing around on steps. You can go in and you can have a beer. You can have it on the steps. You know, this is the thing. There's a obviously in this country, like, football fans are stigmatised, so they can't have a beer during games, you know, and bring it out to the ground, whereas you can do that in a rugby game, but it doesn't happen in football games here.
Do you take beers out in Premier League games?
I don't think so, I have to say. I don't think so, but I'm open to correction on
Someone
this.
will text in, who knows.
Obviously there's corporate hospitality, and I've been to games where you have beers, and I'm trying to think if I ever, like, have I ever watched, you've gone to the odd sort of junket where you're like watching a game in a box, you know. I'm trying to think, have I ever brought a drink outside?
It's just, I was talking to...
It's ringing a bell with me. I don't know if I have.
I was talking to a friend, because I was at Preston Rotherham, which by the way only had 11,000 and it's second tier. And we were just talking about that point, because you certainly weren't allowed at the Preston game, and my mate was swearing blind that at Anfield beer is sold right around the ground, plastic glasses obviously, and you can bring it out. Yeah, and like swearing. I meant to double check it actually.
Well, I know that, I mean, that would be the case actually, even in the World Cup in the summer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They would have, but it's low strength. like seriously low strength. It's like here's your 1%, beer here. So it's tempered. Whereas Germany, it certainly wouldn't be tempered.
What is it in Germany? 8%.
I don't know, but it was beer anyway. And but that's by the by. But even just like toilet facilities, food, stuff like that. And there was a real mix of, at one end of the ground there was like a sort of a not quite ultras, but the more hardcore fan, and that end was packed. That was the most populous end of the ground. Our side, we were behind the other goal, and it was sort of families, kids, few young lads as well. But just like, it was a decent game. It was 2-2, but you got the sense that, and the club has been through the mill as well, that these are people who just go all the time. I mean, I think they played in front of crowds of 60,000 at times in the Allianz Arena, so they're back here.
In the day, like.
So back here, they're getting a 15,000 crowd every week.
See, I was going to say, and I appreciate you were on a bloody stag, so you probably haven't done an academic study of these things, but I wonder, are 1860 Munich a bit of an anomaly in the third division because they've just taken such a big cohort of support with them? They've taken whatever percentage of the 60,000 that were going at one stage are sort of still hanging around, and when Sunninghof go and play back in Sunninghof.
Yeah, Asbach, I think they're from, or somewhere. Yeah,
maybe they're getting 3,000. I don't know.
Yeah, their capacity stadium was 10. They had actually the only real spaces in the ground. They had a small enough travelling support, and the players, it was a really nice touch after they went over afterwards. And I wouldn't see this even at games here, the extent to which the players went over and high-fived all of the away supporters and talked to them and chatted to them and stuff like that. So, but it is there's a real fan culture in Germany. I know that a couple of years back, I'm not sure about this year, the 1860 Munich season ticket was like 50 quid, I think, or something like that.
That's
great. So it's a great place to go and watch football.
David was in touch. Joe was in Anfield at the weekend. No beer allowed to your seat. I was glad of the 90-minute break of it.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. You can't bring it to your seat, like it's around the ground. But
so maybe you can drink it all around the ground just outside, but just not quite to your seat.
Yeah, whereas whereas here, like, I've only think I've ever gone to really one rugby match where. Run with full stop. It was like an Ulster game in Donnybrook where people are gone off, getting their rounds and bringing them back and stuff. That was the same thing at 1860. Lads would just head off, or women would head off and come back with their 4 beers in their handles, and everyone picks up their glasses afterwards and brings them back in, and you get a refund for some of your cash to avoid littering, basically. So it's just you do feel you do feel it is a stigmatization of the football fan, like, well, you'll cause trouble, you can't possibly handle alcohol. 100%, yeah, that's 100% what. And now, there are historic instances that we can't be too sort of blasé about this. There has been trouble at games, and there would be games. You think of certain fixtures, and I'm thinking of some in sort of intense games in England and so on, and even there's games here and games in places where there's been trouble around the ground, and you think, well, would this inflame the situation? But when there's proper segregation and I don't know, a sort of a relaxed enough mentality towards it, to be able to pop off to a vendor halfway through and get a couple of beers shouldn't really be a thing. And people go to sports events in America and all these places where it's just it's a part of the thing, and it's not to say you need to do it. I'm just going to say, it sounds like you're being a bit, oh no, this is essential. I'm just saying that you're trying to sell like an entertainment option to people, and you're giving people the option and the choice, and not to patronise them and say you don't have a choice. Go and do what you want. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. But
I agree with you. You can sound like we're on a big crusade here to get drink back.
Not
too bothered either way. But
no, it's not that. But at the same time, it's just to say, like, I'm not saying it's anyway enhancing their experience. They couldn't go without it. It's only one aspect of it. But like in some of the teams in the German second division, when the big clubs go down, they
think how much better the League of Ireland football would look if you could get locked.
Joe.
Come on, that was a cheap one. Sorry.
It was a cheap gag.
Here, Joe was texting, did my Erasmus in... I'm obviously just...
don't be looking. Don't stick with your slagging now.
Did my Erasmus in...
Hardcore man, he went to Preston, look at him now. Yeah.
Did my Erasmus in Nuremberg a few years ago. Fell in love with the club, brilliant atmosphere, the way football should be watched. 35 quid for a Bundesliga ticket. Ended up being relegated the year I was there, but back to the big time now. Looking forward to going back after Christmas. Teaching German in Roscommon now. Trying to create an enclave of club fans there, not having much success as of yet, but still hopeful. Can we not get the Nuremberg Massive going out in Roscommon? No, that's a shout out for Joe. He's trying to put that together.
Nuremberg rally, or maybe not. I think, like, there is just something about the culture in England and Germany, like, and actually in Scotland as well. There are just some countries where, and we can joke or whatever, it's not some debate about standard or some debate what the game is going to be like. It's just, this is just what you do. We might talk about Blackpool in a while, that it is just a way of life.
You know, it's interesting.
It's just ensconced in what you do.
Totally. Look, I hear you. You're totally right. It's not about standard. Like, that argument's actually totally wrong.
It's here that argument is used.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't have a football culture here. It's in pockets.
No, it's very strange. Because I've got friends, we all love football. You know, we grew up, it's Sky Sports in the house. Yeah. It's Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal. You know, it's just football. All we do is play football. That's the hinterland I'm coming for. We talk about football when we get together. We'll go and watch games on TV.
Yeah, of course.
There is a menu of things you might do on a Friday night in Dublin. From cinema to go to someone's house, to go to the pub, to something else, maybe a bit more random. It has struck me as a bit funny that, bar one or two exceptions, maybe two in a group of maybe 20 that I can think of, that never on the rota menu of things to do on a Friday night does anyone seem to suggest, well, we just go and watch a game.
Yeah.
And it is odd that it's not even just there as a possibility.
Yeah,
I couldn't explain it to you.
It's very hard to manufacture that as well. I would make that point. Like, you either get the bug or you don't. And I just think that naturally there are places you go where they don't have maybe the other sporting competition. Like you mentioned, I heard you speaking to Kevin about going to Preston and how, you know, and I've been to Preston to games a couple of times, and it's not dissimilar to a lot of other places in England, which wouldn't be towns that you would associate with like these sort of metropolis, this glamour. You know, you can go to wherever, places like Ipswich and stuff where, you know, it can be good hour on a Friday and it can be pretty dark and sort of quiet. But around that hour leading up to 3 o'clock on a Saturday or whenever it might be, all of a sudden these people emerge. You know, the train stations are full, and you know, you in the middle of England, or you go around England on a Saturday, there's a train station maybe around the Midlands or Manchester area. There's fans going different ways and different games and going everywhere, and it's just a part of the habit. And you can't preach, like I always say, you can't preach and just tell people to develop it. It's just something that they've been brought up with, and it's there and it's part of your being. And when 1860 dropped to the 4th division, I don't think there would have been a suggestion of, well, that's it, we just don't go to them anymore.
No, totally. I think now we were in Selbridge, there was no League of Ireland club.
No, that's it. Well, I also think that's a massive issue. If you haven't grown up with it around, like you could go to Dundalk now on a Friday night, say, or Sligo, or there's parts of the country where match night actually is a part of the social existence of a certain something male and female sports fan in that area, that they see crowds on a Friday night going, oh, they're off to the game.
It's an event.
Yeah.
It's just been too concentrated in Dublin. We've too many clubs in Dublin for a country the size.
Yeah, and there's huge parts of the country where people don't even identify with this debate, and you can't be giving out to them, oh, why aren't you interested in it? Like, you can't tell someone from Mayo to suddenly make Galway their club when in the rest of their life that, you know, Galway is a rival. You know, okay, I know the provinces have done it to an extent in rugby, but it's a slightly different thing. Yeah. You know,
Connacht, they're not called Galway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there is that. But I mean, I do find like the German approach to it is particularly good, because it's generally very cheap and accessible, and the safe standing thing more so than the booze thing or anything. But actually, it's trusting fans as well that they can create an atmosphere in an environment that, you know, it's properly monitored and well looked after, but it's sort of trusting. And I just think you see the atmospheres and the sort of scenes, because I was watching, like, you know, invariably you're sort of in bars and seeing the showing Bundesliga on loop, and the crowds are incredible. I mean, as I said, the crowds for some of the teams in English lower tiers are absolutely amazing as well. Like, you know, teams like Portsmouth and stuff like that, when they were in the 4th tier getting over 20,000 at games. It's just, it's not about the standard. It's never about the standard, whereas here it's always about that.
Short break. Tim Vickery's with us next.
Football on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app, with hundreds of pre-live and in-play football markets. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
News Talk has teamed up with BMW Ireland to celebrate the brand new BMW 8 Series. To mark the launch, we're bringing you an exclusive event with a host of rugby legends ahead of Ireland's defining match against New Zealand. Join Keith Wood and some very special guests at the National Concert Hall on Thursday, November 8th to explore the power, the pace and the precision of the game. Everything you want in an 8. Tickets are free but limited. Get yours now at newstalk.com/events. Over 18s only.
Will your home feel the chill this winter? Then why not apply for grant funding of up to €12,000 from SEAI? Just imagine the difference wall and attic insulation, heat pumps or solar panels would make to the enjoyment of your home, as well as reducing your energy bills. So far, over 400,000 Irish homes have been transformed. SEAI, your energy matters. Apply for your home energy grant today at seai.ie.
So, this new Citroen features the PureTech petrol...
Shh.
Oh, sorry, what?
It's so quiet, so refined.
Yeah, Citroen's PureTech engine has won International Engine of the Year in its class for 4 years in a row.
Wow.
Why are we whispering?
I don't know.
The Citroen PureTech petrol range. You'll be quietly impressed. See all the 191 cars and deals at Citroen's newest dealership, Linders Citroen, Finglas.
Citroen.
T's and C's apply.
Maybe your dream has a twin exhaust, or 7 seats, or leather upholstery. Maybe your dream comes with a marble worktop, or a walk-in wardrobe. Maybe it fits on your finger, or maybe it covers the world. Whatever it is, big or small, a personal loan from Bank of Ireland can help to make that dream come true. Search Bank of Ireland Loans, call us, or drop into any Bank of Ireland branch. Bank of Ireland is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. Over 18s only. Warning, if you do not meet the repayments of your loan, your account will go into arrears. This may affect your credit rating, which may limit your ability to access credit in the future.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Well, Matthew and Vickery on the line. Evening, Tim.
Hello, hey, gentlemen. How you doing?
Good. Long time no talk. So we're talking to you about interesting times with the Copa Libertadores. However, can I throw one way out of left field for you? It just strikes me now.
Throw it in.
Instantly as you're on the line.
Get it out of your system, Joe.
Why are so many, from Rivaldo to Ronaldinho to several others, very high profiles, why are they so enamoured with Brazil's new leader?
How long have you got? Brazil is going through bad times. Bad times. There is a huge problem with urban crime. And the speech of Bolsonaro, who is really he's a Cold War warrior, and the Cold War is alive and well in Brazil. He wants to clean the country of all of the communists. I have to say, I haven't found one. I can't see it. I keep looking. I can't see none of these communists. But he also wants a shoot-to-kill policy from the police. He wants. He says the policeman who doesn't kill is not a proper policeman. So it's a simple solution to a huge problem, and this is a country which at the moment is baying for blood. Now, over recent months, Bolsonaro's extreme right-wing speech has become normalised. I mean, there's all sorts of examples of his misogyny and his homophobia and so on. But mainly that idea of the only good criminal is a dead criminal. That's one that has serious traction in Brazilian society. So that, I think, is the main reason. Now, they're coming off a severe economic recession, a huge corruption scandal, which plenty of blame has been and rightly so levelled at the left-leaning Workers' Party, who were his principal opposition in this election. And there's also the issue of social conservatism. The huge progress has been made here in recent years on issues of diversity, on women's rights, lesbian and gay rights. Now it's pushback time. And Bolsonaro, his explicit aim is to kind of recreate, if you like, a little bit like the villain in the recent Kingsman film, to recreate a kind of kitsch 1950s where everyone knew their place and homosexuals didn't go around kissing openly in the street. If they do that, they deserve a beating, says Mr. Bolsonaro. And you have to remember that the atmosphere of football in Brazil is quasi-militaristic. It's very, very socially conservative. And look at Brazil's youth sides. They're under 17 side, they're under 20 side. They almost look like military cadets. You know, people have the image of the long hair and the earrings. You can't do that on the way up. You can't do it. You know, you've got to earn the right to have a little bit of individuality. It's a very socially conservative environment. So I think there are a number of reasons for this, on the face of it, surprising option for someone who doesn't really offer poor Brazilians very much, apart from, they hope,
I disagree, but they hope, a solution to the law and order problem.
Okay, grim times indeed.
Yeah, and I've been here for more than 24 years, and for the majority of that time, you could cling to the belief that things were getting better. By hook and by crook, things were getting better. The last 2 or 3 years, that has gone out of the window, and people in desperate times, people look for easy solutions, desperate solutions, and that's effectively what they've done with Bolsonaro now. So interesting times, horrific times from a journalistic point of view. Very interesting times indeed.
Yeah, because it's funny. Myself and Joe were both there for the World Cup, so there would have been a lot of focus, obviously, on the. I suppose the social aspect around the country at the time. And you mentioned the corruption issues there and how maybe the public mood has sort of switched against, I suppose, the people that were there before. Is the World Cup and the Olympics and the spend on those events and all the stuff around that, is that almost a factor in it in some way?
I think it's a huge factor. I think this particular moment in Brazil started in 2013. You remember those demonstrations during the Confederations Cup?
Yeah.
Which suddenly took hold of the country. Millions and millions out on the streets and leaving the authorities absolutely perplexed. What happened there, I think, and this I think is very clear in retrospect, that was the breakdown of the kind of cross-class alliance you need if you want to implant a welfare state, which the Workers' Party had been timidly trying to do. Got to get middle-class people on board as well, because they're the ones who are having the tax bill. So the big protest there in 2013 was against state services. And this is the moment when the middle class break away and become more authoritarian. The big slogan that was used at the time of those street demonstrations, my political party is Brazil. That's Brazil above all political parties. Now, it seemed on the face of it at the time innocent enough, but really that's a fascist slogan, because inside that Brazil, there are lots and lots of different schools of thought, but suddenly fewer of them are allowed. And that slogan, my party is Brazil, Bolsonaro has taken over that slogan, so that's big for him. My party is Brazil, Brazil above everyone. Brazil is bigger than all of us. God above this, and we're already seeing teachers now under threat. There's a proposal that one politician has just put forward for all lessons to be filmed. So if there's any danger of teachers indoctrinating their kids with left-wing ideology, you've got proof there. The bully boy intimidation is already out on the streets, and Bolsonaro doesn't get sworn in until next January.
Okay. Tangent over with. I suspect we may come back to that at some stage with you, but the Copa Libertadores, we're into the final stages, semi-final done completely on one end of the draw and second leg of the other semi-final to come. I was reading just 2 years ago, and I'm sure people are aware this is kind of the South American Champions League. We had Nacional of Colombia against a very small team from Ecuador in the final. It seems Brazil and Argentina are reclaiming some control here.
Yeah, certainly. And there's an easy explanation for this. Up until 2 years ago, the Libertadores was squeezed into one half of the year. From last year, it was extended. So it now starts at the end of January and it goes all the way through to the end of November. The longer the time scale, the better things are for the wealthier clubs, because you can keep changing your squad during the course of the competition, and also in the reorganisation last year, Brazil and Argentina were given more slots. So last year we had a final between one club from Brazil and one club from Argentina, and this time 7 of the last 8 were from Brazil or Argentina, and both the finalists are, at the moment, the smart money is on a Boca versus River. Although Palmeiras of Brazil will have plenty to say about that in a few hours' time. Yeah,
with Luis Felipe Scolari managing them, if people are wondering where he has ended up. I presume River Plate and Boca don't love each other?
No, in fact, I feel a little bit sorry for them if that's the way it comes out. Because, and this will be huge, this will be absolutely huge, and whoever loses this will never, ever be allowed to forget it. In 30 years' time, that will still be thrown down the faces of whoever loses in a final. So just to sum up the situation, the semi-finals completed tonight. Palmeiras lost 2-0 away to Boca Juniors last week, 2 goals right at the end. it's very, it's Scolari ball. So it's very, very cautious counter-attack, and they seem to have the thing under control, and the wheels came off right at the end and they conceded 2 goals. Now, this puts them tonight in a situation that they've never been in before. Before, in every previous round, they won the first leg 2-0 away. So at home, it was just administering. Now, they've got to abandon Scolari ball. They've got to go out and and if the away goals rule is in effect, so if they concede 1, they've got to score 4. So it's going to be really interesting to see if Palmeiras can pull that one off. Probably in South America's most impressive new stadium. The setting will be magnificent, as it was last night in Gremio's new stadium, where we had a little bit of fireworks and plenty of drama right at the end.
Yes.
Yeah, what was that drama at the end? It sort of unfolded dramatically enough, I think, Tim.
Yeah, well, Gremio had won the first leg away, 1-0. So they're in that position, which I think can be an awkward position. What do you do at home? Do you stick or do you twist? And in the first half, they were absolutely terrible. They didn't even deserve 0. They got 1, kind of deflected goal. River could have scored 3, couldn't get any. So at that point, Gremio are 2-0 up on aggregate, and you think they're coasting. And in fact, they're much, much better in the second half. They have a chance to put the whole thing to bed, don't take it. And then they go negative. The time wasting. The ball boys disappear, so the ball's not coming back. They're going down with cramp, trying to waste as much time as possible. Every time the goalkeeper's called upon, it's 5 minutes rolling on the ground. And they are negative, and there are dangers in that, especially, gentlemen, now that VAR has been introduced. One clear consequence I think we're seeing here is defending close to your own goal can be dangerous with VAR. So just inside the last 10 minutes, River got 1 goal. Now, it seems, although I don't think anyone picked up on this at the time, that it may have glanced off his the striker's arm, but no one saw that, not even the VAR referee. So that one stands. And then just a few minutes later, River Plate think they have a corner. They're happy with a corner. It's a shot blocked, and it goes off behind the goal for a corner. But hang on a minute, the VAR referee has spotted it. And you look at the images, and really there's not a great deal of doubt about it. And even Gremio had no real complaints with the fact that penalty was given, because it was handball. It was blocked by the centre-back there with an arm outstretched. And by today's criteria, that's a penalty. It was also, which I thought was very, very harsh, a second yellow card for the fellow who blocked it with his hand. So he's sent off. Now, at this point, if that penalty is converted, Gremio are out unless they can score a goal. Time is, we're already getting into stoppage time now. So what don't you want to do if you're Gremio? Well, what you don't want to do is spend 20 minutes arguing about it, because it's just going to eat into the time that you have to score the goal if the penalty is converted. But try telling that to Gremio, especially Bressan, the player who got sent off, because he made repeated attempts to try and get his hands on the referee, and he kept on being forced back, and the riot police are on, and it took forever and ever. In the end, I think we went to 13 minutes of stoppage time, but that still didn't make up everything that we lost. But Gremio had lost their opportunity by then, so that they crash out. So we've got half of a River Boca. River Plate are already through. We will see in a few hours' time if Boca join them or if Palmeiras can pull off a comeback.
Okay, excellent. Well, let's catch up before the final then.
Look forward to it. First leg next week, second leg after the FIFA dates at the end of the month.
Perfect. Tim Vickery, pleasure as always. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Cheers.
Tim Vickery with us there. It's just gone full time at Stamford Bridge, by the way. Chelsea 3, Derby 2. And Frank Lampard is taking his applause from the Stamford Bridge faithful.
Derby hit the post right at the end as well to go 3-3, yeah.
Elsewhere, Arsenal 2-1 up on Blackpool. That one just about to go full time. And Spurs, heavy schedule at the moment, 3-1 winners away to West Ham. Middlesbrough 1-0 up on Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup this evening. We'll take a short break. Keith Andrews on the way. Daniel, thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Off the ball on News Talk.
Your expectations for this radio ad are probably, well, indifferent. You were expecting another generic voiceover, but instead, you've got me. Similarly, every so often a car comes along and your expectations are redefined. The new Mazda 6 is so perfectly crafted, it redefines a whole